In the previous video, I introduced the first two ways to nurture a culture of innovation, which are first, adhere to the principles of focus on the user, and second, think 10x. The third way is launch and iterate. Launch and iterate requires a shift in mindset. It says that you don't need to perfect something on paper first to be successful. In fact, you don't even need to have every detail figured out. Launch and iterate encourages experimentation and learning from each output with help from your peers, leadership, and feedback from your customers. Let's look at an example. This image demonstrates the evolution of Google Glass. The initial challenge discussion probably began with someone asking, if we can get information to people at their fingertips with a smartphone, how might we enable them to retrieve or receive information hands-free? From this, the prototype of the digital glasses emerged. Very early, it became apparent that there were barriers to adoption for the mass market, the cost being one of them. Another was social expectation, because people felt awkward walking around with them. But Google teams maintained their curiosity, which led to an interesting discovery. While mass market wasn't ready for Google Glass, which was an apparent failure at the time, they learned that there was in fact significant enterprise demand. A surgeon or a handler in a warehouse or a repair mechanic for large industrial equipment could use a device like this. Hands-free access to information that would help them do their job better is highly valuable. And in those cases, the cost is less of an obstacle. So, in July 2017, Google launched the new Enterprise Edition of Google Glass. While initial plan wasn't a success, by responding to customer and user feedback, Google teams were able to build a useful product for the right audience. When it comes to machine learning, use it with an openness to learn from experience, knowing that perfection is not possible, and that all model predictions by nature are probabilistic. The model will never be correct 100% of the time, but it can be useful nevertheless. You won't know what works unless you try it, and so experimentation is essential. This requires a willingness to fail. In fact, if you are not failing, then you're not stretching enough. Suppose by now you've established your team structure and you've hired the right skill set and launched a campaign to encourage everyone to use the 3 core principles. Will that ensure everyone is using the capabilities of cloud technology to produce innovative solutions? The answer is not quite. Because the reality inevitably is that there might be resistance to change. We're talking about a fundamental change in the way employees think and the way they use technology to get work done. Successfully incorporating ML into your company might involve a cultural change. Your attitudes towards perfection, trial and error, and failure may also have to change. You'll want to make sure you set your teams up for success by leading the change in the cloud era and supporting them at every stage of the journey. While not in the scope of this course, we do recommend that you take advantage of our business transformation with Google Cloud on-demand training to understand the broader scope of transformation for your organization, and also leading change in the cloud era, which is an in-person training. This course offers specific exercises to help your team understand the psychology of change and to identify ways to design and lead change management initiatives as part of your cloud adoption journey. You can find more details on this course below. To conclude, in this module, you learned how to formulate a data strategy. We recommended that you should design systems so that you get to keep collecting data, break down data silos within your organization, transition from data lakes to data warehouses, learn about your data, do a lot of pilot projects with real users, collect more data. All that data makes it very important that you develop data governance around the right use of AI. We talked about tools and techniques and tips on this topic. Finally, we finished off with recommendations on building successful ML teams and creating a real culture of innovation within your organization.